John Parker was born into slavery in about 1827 in Norfolk, Virginia. He was biracial. History does not remember who he was. His mother and him lived on the plantation there in Norfolk, Virginia for 8 years before he was sold. He was sold to a doctor in Mobile, Alabama. He was forced at 8 years old to leave his mother and walk. He wasn't put into a wagon. No, he actually walked almost 900 miles all the way to where his new home as a slave to this doctor in Mobile, Alabama. This is a common story in slavery where a child is taken away from his mother. In fact, there's a song that talks about the motherless child. Here was a boy, 8 years old, fatherless, motherless, being taken he knows not where, had nobody that he knew. And he had just been sold from one person to another. And yet, who did he have to trust? Who could he lean on? He walked all that way alone. He arrived in this doctor's house and ended up being raised with the doctor's sons, who were about the same age. Because he was raised with the doctor's sons, he was educated. He was actually learned to read, learned to write, and found a love for education. But when the sons went off to college, it didn't go as he thought. He thought he'd continue learning, but then the sons dropped out, and he ended up feeling more alone than ever because his education stopped. So as he grew up and as a teenager, he began metalworking, and he kept looking for a way to escape. And it's almost like a sense of a need for freedom, a yearning for freedom. So after a couple of escape attempts, he started getting more and more creative. And on one of these attempts, he actually convinced someone in the town to buy him and then promised that person, if you let me, I will find a way to pay you back. And he did. He actually picked up a side job on top of being this person's slave and paid back the equivalent of about $65,000 to buy his own freedom. One of the things I see in this is a connection between the struggles that we have. Just like he was born into slavery, we are born into sin. And there is something in sin that the Bible says we're a slave to sin. In the same way, we can be trapped into habits, into things like we're not in control of our own lives. We don't even have choices, it feels like, because we're so trapped by either addictions or by our own desires. God has to set us free from that. We have to have that sense, that need for freedom to rise up in us, to realize that we need to be freed from that. And that's what happened to him. He realized that he had to get free. He had to get away. There was something in him that woke up. And I feel like that's the same thing that happens to us when we realize our own, the extent of our own slavery to sin. What they call people who sought to escape slavery, they call them freedom seekers. And in the same way, we need freedom. We need to seek freedom. Fast forwarding a little bit, he buys his own way and he travels north and ends up landing in Cincinnati. Now he's free and he's married. He gets a house in Ripley, Ohio, and it's great. He's made it. He's done it. He actually becomes a successful businessman. He actually starts a foundry, co-owns a foundry. He actually invents metalworking parts. Brilliant man. But it wasn't enough. He didn't stop there. He ends up going back across the river to Kentucky. It started out when a friend wanted help getting a loved one out of slavery. A friend just wanted to get this loved one out of slavery, and so he helped this friend go back to that plantation and meet this person and say, hey, let's get you going. Let's get you out of slavery. After that, he started making many, many more trips. And over the next, I don't know, maybe 10 years, he ended up bringing over 400 people across the Ohio River from Kentucky. 400 people that he brought from slavery to freedom. There's a famous quote by Toni Morrison where she says, the function of freedom is to set somebody else free. I think we need to understand that. I think John Parker understood that. When Jesus said to go and make disciples of all nations, I believe he was telling us that we have to set other people free, that we cannot just hold on to this freedom ourselves, and this freedom is for us. I'm saved. That's it. My family's saved. That's it. No, he's sending us out. He's sending others out. So with the story of John Parker, you have an example of someone who was set free and then set others free. Now, just up in Madisonville, there's a school, John Parker Elementary. We know the principal of that school. And she takes it upon herself to remember this history, to remember how this man set free, and to inspire children with that story. But she doesn't even stop there. What she does is she actually takes the students at this school on a big, long trip every year. You know, whoever is allowed to go, they take them on buses, and they travel the Underground Railroad from Cincinnati all the way up into Canada to keep the story alive, to keep the idea of freedom alive, to show students that it's possible to find freedom. Through courage, through imagination, through resilience, through faith, they can find freedom. And that is really what I learned from the African American story. That with faith in God, with courage to do the right thing and to face our bondage, through resilience to get through the hard challenges and tests, and through imagination to take steps we can't even imagine yet, we find God leading us to the promised land.